Living with chronic illness or co occurring conditions often feels like a constant energy drain. But what if you could shift from pushing yourself too hard to manifesting with ease? Today's episode explores how you can stop fighting against your body and start aligning your energy to create a life of abundance and well being. A super excited welcome to today's episode on Beyond Chronic Burnout. I'm your host, Carol Jean Whittington. I'm the Chief Wellbeing Officer at Whittington Wellbeing, and I'm so thrilled you're here today. Today, we have an incredible conversation lined up with Brett Chinn, a certified coach who has spent over a decade helping people align with their ideal career and life path. Brett combines deep mindset work, spiritual growth, and 25 years of astrology practice to bring a holistic approach to self care, especially for those managing chronic health conditions. In today's conversation, we'll talk about how to conserve your energy, avoid burnout, and manifest abundance from a space of peace, not pressure. Ready to take your self care to the next level? Let's dive in.
Burnout's kicking in hard, feels like a war zone. Can't keep dragging my feet, lost in the unknown. Caribou jeans got the plan to lift me higher. Real self-care mantra, spark that fire. Energize, optimize, break the chains down. Feel the power in me, I'm gonna show now. Let the real self-care rekindle my spark. No more shadows, living strong in the dark.
Brett Chinn, welcome to the show. I am so excited to have you here today as we are talking all things managing energy and burnout with chronic illness and co-occurring conditions, because you and I both have co-occurring health conditions. We have talked about sort of the burnout experience. This is a big hot topic. And as we are in self-care September, I feel like we really need to talk about not just the burnout element, but for those of us with co-occurring health conditions, we really need to talk about, well, what is the self-care element to this? Because so many people pay lip service to this word without any how-tos or any framework, or sometimes it's not even stuff that applies to us. They give, go have a massage, go for a walk. Well, I have POTS. I can't stand up today. I can't go for a walk. I have fibromyalgia. My skin feels like it's on fire. Please don't touch me. Right. So those types of things don't work. So I love that we're having this conversation today. Brett, tell us a little bit about your personal burnout experience. What has that been for you?
Yeah, thank you. So I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome in my late 20s. But before that, I went through these cycles pretty much, I would say, starting in my preteens through my teens and my 20s, where I would be go, doing all of the things, whether it was sports, hobbies, theater, schoolwork, everything. And then I would be unable to get out of bed for 2 weeks. And when this first happened, I remember I went to the doctor and they're like, nothing's coming up. Maybe you have mono. And then I had mono again the next year, and then the next year, and then it was the flu. And this kept happening to me. And so when I was diagnosed, it was because a doctor said, something's not right here. Like you seem otherwise healthy. All of your blood tests are coming back great. You eat well, you exercise. Like, sure, I had all of these other occurring issues, but she's like, there's no reason that you should just feel like this all the time. And lo and behold, I was diagnosed. And then one of the things that I had to really learn and still teach myself is to live by what I call the 80-20 rule. And we hear this rule a lot. Like, we hear this when it comes to healthy eating or healthy living. 80% make the effort, 20% have fun. But the way that I took it and have interpreted it was because once I was diagnosed, I went from doing yoga almost every day to hearing, this is why you don't feel good, because you're hyperextending, you're overextending. metaphorically and physically.
Right.
And so I went to a physical therapist who said, here's the deal. You can do the exercise, you can try do yoga very carefully, but you always need to make sure that you're staying between 20 and 80. You're not going from 0 to 100, because when you go from 0 to 100, you overstretch. And when I heard that, I thought, that makes sense physically, but it also makes sense in I can also apply to every aspect of my life, which is so hard to do when you're a type A and you don't only want to be at 100%, you want to be at 110%. And also,
I wouldn't know a thing about that, Brett.
yeah. But then also your 100%, or excuse me, your 80% is probably someone else's 100%, because you're just so used to like overachieving. I got to win and compete, and even against yourself. And so that was a huge lesson of, okay, if I want to keep myself healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I have to put up these guardrails of 20 and 80%. Now, that is it's still something I'm learning, 15 years later. And it comes up and sneaks up on you. The burnout sneaks up because even when, something I experienced during the pandemic, I had started my own business, I'm working from home, and I'm thinking, I have such a flexible schedule. I'm not leaving the house. I'm working from my desk. I love what I do. And then I also neglected to make sure I was staying between 20 and 80 on the mental side of things. And as a coach, you're always giving, you're giving a lot of energy, you're receiving a lot of energy. And so even if you're like, I'm just sitting here, I'm not doing anything, you are doing something, you are expounding energy. And so I can remember end of 2021, my neck started hurting. And I thought, I slept weird. It's my EDS flaring up, like whatever, it'll go away. And then it kept hurting. I'm like, what is going on? I'm not doing anything. I'm not exercising crazy. And I'll even take a break. What's going on? I took physical breaks, but I was still working really hard in here as an intuitive person and an empath, but also with my clients. And I made a teledoc appointment, and my doctor said, you have to stop. And I said, stop what? I'm not doing anything. And she's like, you are exhausted, because if you weren't exhausted, all of the steps that you'd be taking would be alleviating this pain, but it's not working. So you have two options. One is you take a break. The other option is you keep going and you end up in the hospital. And I was like, I don't want to end up in the hospital, particularly during a pandemic. And so I took a break, and I remember going to my clients at the time. I was doing career coaching and business coaching. And so I had a cohort of female entrepreneurs, and I felt so bad. I went to them and said, hey guys, I need to take a few weeks off from hosting our group calls. I'm so sorry. I felt horrible. And all of them were so sympathetic and so caring and empathetic. They're like, do what you need to do. You work so hard. And so I don't know if this is answering your question, but we do get these, I think we get so internal in our own thoughts and just doing that we forget that what impact we're having. We don't realize the impact we're having. So that's my experience with burnout. It's still something I struggle with. I think I approach it with kindness to myself, and then this might be another side conversation or another topic. A lot of my work around law of attraction is not just manifesting the things. That's for me, the byproduct. The law of attraction, the work starts inside, and that is honoring yourself, honoring your needs, and treating yourself as if you were this person that deserves the world. And in that world, I think we all want to deserve rest and joy. And yeah. relaxation.
Oh, Brett, you just said something that comes up a lot, and it is deserving
Yeah.
rest. And I think that it's a trap, it's a pitfall. So many of us, especially, us high speed females and entrepreneurs, we fall into this trap of like, I have to earn my rest.
Yeah.
I can't just, willy nilly, do things. I have responsibilities, right? So we get into this, and you said this word too, we get into this doing trap. I think we get into this habit and this cycle of doing, and we step away from the being.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking about, rest, and we're talking about our, co-occurring health conditions, one of the most impactful things, and we can talk about both sides of this, because I love that you're my guest today, because this allows us to talk about some things that, a lot of times folks don't get to talk about. And we're talking about intuition, we're talking about manifestation, but we've got to talk about rest and self-care, not just from like a 3D, but we have to talk about it from a 5D.
Mm-hmm.
And not just like in our physical being here, one-on-one, kind of like, how am I structuring my day and my schedule? But it's also, we've got a lot of very intuitive and highly sensitive folks. And for a lot of us who also have these co-occurring health conditions, and if you're also neurodistinct, we tend to be really tapped into our emotions and the feelings of other people and our sensory system. And energetically, we can walk into a room, or if we're working one-on-one with someone, or we're working with a small group, or I'm doing a workshop at a company and I've got a team there with me, their emotions and their energy, I feel that. So it's not just how are we navigating our doing and our being in the physical realm, but also how are we navigating our energy on a spiritual level?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's equally as important, especially when we're talking about our co-occurring health conditions. So you and I took a pause before we hit record this morning, and I pulled a card for us for our conversation today, and you pulled some for me, which was so kind and thoughtful. And we pulled integration time, planning to rest. And you and I both were like, oh my gosh, we definitely have to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because when we're talking about sort of like feeling like we have to earn our rest, has that ever come up for you, Brett? Where you feel like you had to earn it?
Please. I mean, especially when you have your own business and I think, well, really, not even just having your own business, if you're in any sort of work where you don't see the tangible results right away, yes. But there's something I want to say about this, and this is something that comes up a lot in my work, and it's always a reminder for myself as well. There's so much around inner child healing and deserving. So put it this way. This is what I say to people. When you look at a baby, I'm going to say you for general, because I've never had anyone disagree with this. When you see a cute little baby, you don't look at that baby and say, well, why are you deserving of love? Did you do this today? What did you accomplish today in order for me to love and take care of you? No, we don't do that. We just, oh my God, I want to love this baby. And the same thing with rest. We don't say, well, baby, did you complete that spreadsheet today? Did you sign a new client? Nope. Sorry, you can't nap. We're like, this baby needs rest, because this baby needs rest so it can grow, so it can be healthy. And that is something that's challenging for everyone. And I think it's also especially challenging for people with chronic health conditions, where we feel guilty of like, why do I need so much rest? Well, listen, you just do. This is who you are. This is how you've shown up in this incarnation, in this world. And, it's so interesting because we're so much kinder to other people. It's like if someone comes to me and has like, I'm not feeling well, like, I'll give you a perfect example. I got on the call with a client yesterday and he was like, I really didn't sleep well. I'm really tired. And I was like, do you want to reschedule? Like, I'm fine to reschedule, like whatever you need, not a big deal. Go take care of yourself. This time's for you. Do I do that to myself? Am I like, oh, I'm sorry, you're not feeling well. And so I think that anyway, I might be getting us a little off topic, but a big part of this is the deserving. You and just understanding that you deserve because you're here and you're human, and that's it. Despite
Oh,
your core wounds and despite all of the things. But to answer your question on a more concrete level, oh yeah, absolutely. There's been we can chat about this offline, but the past few months have been really challenging for me in a lot of ways. 2023 was an extremely challenging year, and it ended with me being unemployed. I hadn't restarted my business, didn't know what I was doing, unemployed, and having a couple weeks where I was just sitting around and saying, I feel so guilty. I'm just like reading books and watching TV. And then my husband reminded me, you just went through the most traumatic year of your life. It's okay. Like, no one, like, give this to yourself. And it's just a constant reminder of, I deserve to give things to myself. We all do.
oh man. Okay. So you're hitting at some good core stuff here that I think really plays into our energy mastery, burnout, and how this really, the Venn diagram all comes together into the perfect storm when we have co-occurring or chronic health conditions.
Yeah.
And how do we navigate this? Because for me, that piece of worthiness that I was already worthy to receive rest or to nourish myself when I just needed to reschedule something. There was so much shame. There was so much guilt. There was so much unworthiness. Like I had not earned it. It was a value thing. Like I wasn't valuable. And a lot of it came from my chronic and co-occurring health conditions because my physical body wasn't always able to keep up with my brain. And I remember at one point, I have POTS, I have hypermobility, I have MCAS and mitral valve prolapse. And so all of these things, you know, the trifecta, all working together, and I'm also autistic and ADHD, all hit and came to this massive collision point in my life, and my entire body shut down. And I was immobile in bed. I couldn't even lift my hand to feed myself some days. I had 2 little kids. I mean, this was not an ideal situation. You know, I ended up, I had this wonderful job I loved in healthcare, and I had to basically resign after there was family medical leave, nothing. I had to end up, I was completely disabled at that point. And I was so angry. I was so angry. I was furious at my body for betraying me. And when I look back at my whole lifetime, you know, my first burnout was at the age of 6. And I look back at what those experiences and thoughts and feelings were now in retrospect. And it's like, there was this place where I had believed that my body wasn't keeping up and it was failing. And I was so angry at it. And it had, quote unquote, betrayed me. And I felt like I was this huge burden on my parents and on my spouse and on my children and on my coworkers. And I was like, there was this part of me that's like, I know that I'm meant to live a more fulfilling life than this. This can't be what I meant to live forever. But I felt like I hadn't earned it, that I wasn't worthy of it, that I was a burden. And so that was exhausting and draining. And I didn't feel like I was worthy of rest when what I needed was rest. How has it shown up? I mean, what are some things that maybe you found to navigate this place?
Forgiveness, I think, is a big one. And because I have MCAS as well. I've had I've had organs prolapse. I mean, whole shebang. And then, of course, I mean, I don't have children of my own. But then there's this whole thing of like, well, if I were to be pregnant, what would my body do? Your body betrays you. So there's this forgiveness aspect, this forgiveness of self, and like, this is not your fault. I think there's one aspect of that. Second aspect that has been very helpful for me is to delve deeper into my own spirituality, and that can mean a lot of different things to different people. And for me, that's not just, my tarot and my astrology. That's also there's other things involved there, but it's the getting to the core of that my being is not my body. This is just a temporary state that we're in. I don't exist as, yes, I have the experience as someone who has these illnesses and surgeries, etc. But that does not define who I am. That's not my soul, my core. So there's that piece of it. And
We're taking a quick pause in the show to share an exciting opportunity. Self-Care September is here. When you register for Self-Care September, you'll get my exclusive self-care guide filled with tools to help you unlock your best energy and well-being. This month-long event features expert guests discussing everything from pain relief and aging to measuring self-care, staying out of burnout during a job hunt, and so much more. Plus, don't miss our special events like 20-minute micro recharge lab sessions with me, Carol Jean, yoga with Lori, and trauma-informed meditation with Meditation Magazine's editor-in-chief, Kevin Ellerton. It's not too late. Join us today at whittingtonwellbeing.com. Now, let's get back to our self-care conversation.
then the third piece of it is, I just lost my train of thought. So hold on. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's part of this conversation and how it works in our
where
world.
did it go? Yeah, wow. So forgiveness, it was on the forgiveness, knowing that I'm separate. And then I think, I know what it was. Redefining. I almost hesitate to say this because I don't like toxic positivity and saying like, well, there's a silver lining on every cloud, because no, sometimes things, they just suck. They just suck. Can't do anything about it. But I also think that there's certain things, not everything, but at least for me, as it pertains to what makes me different, intellectually. I mean, I've never been diagnosed with being neuro anything, but I know I'm highly sensitive, and I know there's other things going on. So all of the things that make me different or weird or whatever, I also look at like, that's something really special that I have. And so it's not putting a silver lining on things like not being able to get out of bed or like being in chronic pain. Like that's not, I'm sure we could find something to do a positive spin, but it's not about that. It's, well, what else do I get with this that other people don't get to experience? Like other people, I don't know. I don't think most people, I can walk into a room and literally feel someone's pain in my body, which is terrible sometimes, but it's also, that's really cool.
Yeah. There's so much that I think we get, like if we talk about our attention, you know, the power of our attention, and our life moves in the direction of our attention. And I think one of the things that was really draining for me in the beginning, and it became this huge like energy suck, like this huge like chasm where all of my energy would just get pulled into before I could even, grab it or utilize it. And it was this place that I felt that I didn't have, that I didn't belong here, that somehow it was this mistake, that my body was this mistake, that my brain is this mistake. And I didn't look at the opposite side because my attention was Nothing felt safe. My body didn't feel safe. I couldn't predict or rely on it. My emotions felt all over the place. I didn't realize that it was even worse because I was in burnout. I thought differently. So the way that I, would approach things, the world was saying, well, that's weird, or it's wrong, or why would you do that? That makes no sense. Or you're so smart, Carol Jean. Why would you do something so stupid like this? This is just dumb. And so all of that really colored my experience. And I got into this habit, this chronic habit of everything was negative. Everything was bad because everything felt so huge and heavy, and it felt negative, especially when my body wasn't doing what I wanted it or needed it to do. And there was this one night, and I had sort of like this dark night of the soul, as they say. And I slid out of bed because I couldn't stand up. And I just laid on the hardwood floor, like face down. And I was just sobbing. And I was just like, this is that moment where I'm either going to be here tomorrow morning or I'm not, because I don't know what else to do. I'm at the end. And there was just this one little glimmer, this little ray of light that sort of came through that was hope. And it was from that point that it was like, I don't want to only focus on the things that are wrong or bad or not working, because I am not allowing myself to see the other things. And you're talking about that. You were just talking about like, well, I walk into a room and sure, I can feel somebody's pain and that doesn't feel comfortable. But how is that allowing me to be of service to them? Or how is that shifting my awareness to maybe be more compassionate in a different way, or show up in a way that maybe, my whole business and the whole methodology of the unveiling method started because I had 3 people who committed suicide in a week. And I believe it was because they were in such horrific burnout, and they were all neurodistinct. And one of them was a childhood friend. And I remember that was how I felt a lot. And especially when it came to co-occurring health conditions, sometimes I just wanted to quit because I got so tired of doctors not having answers, or test results coming back, quote unquote, normal. What's wrong with you, right? Not having answers. And so there's this place that I began to choose. Like I had to consciously choose to be aware and to put my attention on things that I hadn't, that was outside of the habit I had created. Brett, what are your thoughts as
you're talking? I'm like, yes, because here's the thing. We are all, unless you are raised in a very conscious way by people who are like, focus on what you want, your beliefs create your actions, which create your reality, blah, blah, blah. We are mostly in autopilot, and we build these neural pathways and these beliefs that continue to strengthen these neural pathways so that we just are in autopilot and we function a certain way. We look at things a certain way, and however we look at things dictates our actions, dictates our reality. Also, if we're talking from a manifestation perspective, yeah, you are going to be blocking the things that you want because you don't think you can have them. If you're focusing on the negative, you're blocking the positive, because we're all manifesting all the time. Literally the only difference between people who get what they want and who don't is the people who get what they want believe that they can have it and feel safe in their manifestation, because we're all manifesting.
That's a key word.
It is a very key word. But what you were saying was like, I'm like, yes, because I've been in that place, and I feel that we have to actively choose again and again to have hope. Because if we're not, we are choosing all the time. There's this like not even unspoken, but this thing that we don't talk about, like, oh, well, things are what they are, or I have to do this, or this is whatever. And it's like, no, you are choosing everything that you do in your life. You are choosing how you see things. You're choosing how you react to things, even by not making a choice. Even if it's a subconscious choice, even if it's just like, well, here's what it is, you are making a choice. So it's not easy, but the trick is to say, today I want to choose hope. I want to choose happiness. I want to choose whatever it is. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be delusional and say, well, today you're going to choose not to have a chronic illness. Like, I'm not that person that's going to be like, oh no, you can think away your pain. But as you were talking, Carol Jean, it made me really think of times in my life where I've been in my dark night of the soul and really thought, like, what's the point? And even I think that there is still that choice of throw in a towel, or, which is a really flippant way of putting it, but give up, or find something to keep going for. Something. And I'm going to give you like a really, like for me, honestly, at the time, it was like my parents. I would kill my parents. I know it's just like, I can't do that. So there's some reason that I'm needing to keep going. And then on days where, if I'm feeling depressed or completely burnt out, which we know the two go hand in hand, finding something to be grateful for. And even if it's like, if I can't find something to be grateful for, the big reminder for me is, all right, I can go to the sink and fill my glass with water. There are people in the world that would die for that. Whatever you're complaining about, there's someone else out there who would appreciate whatever it is you're complaining about. Now, not like pain, but even then, like, I do remind myself of like, hey, I may be in pain. I may have these conditions. I have access to healthcare. Wow. I'm still going to have a little pity party for myself, but then I make the choice to say, okay, now we move on. Now I have hope. Now I can do something positive. And if there's nothing positive that I can find in the situation, I need to go out there and create my own positivity, be of service to someone else.
Oh man, those micro recharge and those micro rest moments, they truly are. I teach the 7 forms of rest other than sleep and recharging. And one of those is appreciative rest. And that's one of the things that I started doing, because there's pretty cool science around how our thoughts can change the molecular structure of water.
Yeah.
And so I just started, whenever I fill up a glass, wherever I take a sip of water. So one of my success enablers in the morning is when I wake up, I take a big drink from my glass of water that I keep next to my bed. And as I'm doing that, because you dehydrate in your sleep basically. So as I'm drinking first thing in the morning, hydrating my body and my cells, I just give thanks and gratitude, express thankfulness to the water. I say, I'm so thankful for this clean, cool, nourishing water that I have this morning. Mm-hmm. Just in that moment. And it is amazing the energy shift that happens just in those few seconds. Because I think we tend to get in this mindset, especially around self-care, and especially when we have co-occurring health conditions or chronic illness, and it's all this big stuff. Like, I have to have an hour, I have to have a whole day, or I've got to have a week, all these big things, when truly our entire experience and our energy is not created or destroyed. Energy is only transferred, and we can transform it. Mm-hmm. And it's these little micro moments, and it's this collection of micro moments, right? Yeah. And those actually feel a little lighter and more playful and fun. It's like, oh, I can take a couple sips of water and just say, thank you so much for some clean, clear water that's cool and nourishing. And I did not have to go haul it, because I have lived where I did not have running, clean, clear water when we were in Colorado. We had property, we built a house, and we tested the water. And the water wasn't potable. It wasn't safe to drink. So we were hauling water for, months while we were building our house. And so there's like also this perspective. I'm like, there are people in the world that they don't have access to water.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like you said, it's just these small things. It's just this gratitude, this expression of, man, I'm getting to hydrate myself right now.
Yeah. Well, you said something interesting of like, you said having these small moments of fun, I think you said, right? It feels like it's fun. And when you said that, I was like, yes, because I really believe that we should be, first of all, if you want to start on anything, any habit, you got to start small. This shouldn't be like, well, every day I'm going to meditate for an hour. Good luck to you. But
Let me know how that goes.
Yeah, I'm like, good luck. Good Godspeed if you can do that. But A, there's no one size fits all. Self-care looks different to everyone. And B, it's just creating like, what is something that's going to make me feel good right now? For me, I have this serum that I use in the morning. And like, honestly, I don't know if the serum does anything, but it's like came with these instructions for how to apply it. And it just feels really good. It takes me less than a minute. And I'm just like, oh. And so when you said fun, I know you didn't say these words, but what I tie to fun is joy, feeling good, but also, again, honoring yourself. How am I going to honor myself? What would feel good to me right now? And not this, and then the deserving and the guilt and saying, I deserve this. You deserve to feel good. Everyone deserves to feel good. And guess what? When you feel good and you feel good, your confidence boosts, you feel proud of yourself. And then you start to believe, if we're talking about manifestation, if I feel proud of myself and I feel good, I'm open to receiving all of the things that I want. And I'm saying, when I show up and I say, I'm taking care of myself, that's saying I'm worthy of taking care of myself. And I'm worthy of getting all the things that I want. I don't have to work so hard for it. I can just be worthy of it.
I already am worthy of it.
Exactly.
I love this. And I think this is such a great place for us to also like dive in for our unveilers. So guys, stick around for my unveilers. We're going to do a little private community chat for you guys in a minute. But Brett, there's one thing that you could tell people today who are listening, who have been experiencing burnout, they have chronic or co-occurring health conditions. What is the one thing that you would like them to really take to heart today in their restoration journey?
That's such a tough question because there's so many things and so many, everyone's situation is a little different. What I want to say is to the people who might be listening and thinking, well, that sounds really great. You're like, that sounds so good, like good for you, but that's not for me. Like my situation is terrible. I've been pain, whatever it is. What I want to say to those people is, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, change your mind, change your reality. I believe in that, but it's not that simple. What I want to say to them is that you are worthy. And the number one thing that I think you can do for yourself right now is to do some inner healing, inner child healing. I have a fantastic inner child healing meditation. There's a lot of them out there. And focus on your inner healing. It's going to get you feeling worthy. And then also when you feel worthy and deserving, not only are you going to attract better things and feel good, hopefully you'll also advocate for yourself. I'm sure you are. But even as someone who is, I push doctors, I've had to learn to push doctors. Like, okay, you are going to listen to me. You are going to perform the surgery. But you can't do that if you're not feeling worthy of that. You have to, so feel worthy of yourself, take care of your inner child, talk to yourself as if you were a child, love yourself as that child. What does that child need right now? Maybe ask yourself that every few hours. What do I need right now? And honor that.
Oh, such wonderful, wonderful insights, Brett. So you guys can find Brett at Brett Chinn, CHINN.com. And Brett, Share with everybody this amazing new subscription that you have. Oh my goodness. And I love the name Pocket Psychic.
So, as of today, as we're recording this, I'm launching Pocket Psychic. It is a extension of my one-on-one intensive coaching, and it's designed to offer more people access to myself as a coach, an astrologer, a guide, an intuitive empath. And it includes weekly readings, unlimited text and voice messaging. And then there's different tiers going up to community chats, yearly and monthly readings as well. So I'm just super excited about this. It's my total joy and my privilege to be able to work with people like that.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting and I can't wait. If you guys are interested, go check it out. Go check out Brett's website. Go check out Pocket Psychic and see if this is exactly the subscription you've been looking for. If you connected with Brett today and she is your flavor of jam, go check her out. And if you're an invaler, stick around. Brett and I are going to talk about manifestation and maybe what might be getting in your way. As we wrap up this episode of Beyond Chronic Burnout, I want to remind you of your incredible brilliance. Embrace your uniqueness and know that your journey is one of strength and compassionate curiosity. I'm Carol Jean Whittington, and I'm so honored to be on this journey with you. Stay connected with me on LinkedIn. And for more energizing episodes, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube at Beyond Chronic Burnout. Let's continue thriving together, my friend. Remember, you have the power to break free from burnout and unleash your authentic self. Until our next engaging conversation, take care and keep shining brightly.
Thanks for being here. It's been quite a ride. Energy mastery, let's turn the tide. Top shelf guests, dropping wisdom bombs. Join us next week, where the energy's strong. Beyond chronic.